Put down whatever you are holding right now. I am stepping in because your hesitation is about to cost you everything. Please, do not scroll away from this message. If you walk out of this room today, you will miss your chance. You will spend another year asking me for the door that sat wide open tonight. I am standing between you and that heavy outcome. You absolutely must stay right here with me. Somewhere near 3 in the morning, your tired eyes open entirely on their own, and absolutely nothing in the quiet house has woken you. You reach for the phone in the dark. You type a message about how tired you are, and then you delete every single word of it. You send a message saying you are fine instead. I read the honest message you quietly deleted. I also read the lie you sent them. I am telling you what is moving toward you right now. I have watched you run from the very thing you begged me to provide, even though you spent years asking me for this exact opportunity. You call your hesitation a lack of readiness. I call it a protective delay, and I am putting an end to it tonight. Type, I am here to show you, stop running. Before this is over, you will understand exactly why you keep pulling back from good things, and you will feel the heavy shame drop off your tired shoulders. You will know the words to break this limit. Notice what your hands do when you walk into an empty house. You reach for a familiar sound almost immediately. You find a task that does not matter at all. You never asked yourself why the quiet had to be covered so fast. A full schedule is not always the sign of a healthy and productive life. Sometimes it is a thick wall you built carefully, so you never have to sit in a room with a question you are not ready to face. The noise is not entertainment, it is a shelter. And that is only the very first layer of what you are hiding from. Stay with me right here until the very end. The thing I brought you here to hear has not been spoken yet. I do not say it to an empty room. There is a reason I cannot wait for you any longer. What I am doing inside you right now is only half finished. If you walk out before I am done, you will carry the heavy half of this burden for another long decade. The door is closing on this old season of yours. I know the thought that is moving through your mind right now. You are thinking that someone wrote these words for a simple video. You think this is just a random algorithm, and you have convinced yourself that I am not truly speaking directly to your situation. I am not offended by your careful and skeptical mind. I made the part of you that asks those questions. Your caution is a strong armor, and you earned that heavy armor honestly. You have been promised great things before by people who only wanted something from you, so I will not ask you to believe me blindly tonight. Belief is not the price of entry into this room. I only ask you to notice what happened in your chest a moment ago. When these honest words finally found the secret place you have described to absolutely no one, your breathing changed completely. You did not decide to feel that sudden and strange relief. It arrived before your anxious thinking could even catch up. I have always been there with you through the years. I was in the parking lot when you sat for 10 minutes before entering. You always pull yourself together before you turn the handle of your front door. Nobody inside that house knows about the heavy breath you take before you walk in. They only know the version of you that smiles and asks about their day, because you refuse to let them see how close you are to breaking. But I know about the breath you take in the dark. I have always known about the silent weight you carry. You keep waiting for the perfect time when you finally feel ready. You constantly tell yourself that you need more preparation and much more strength before you can finally step forward. That is the lie you have been feeding your own soul. You are not lacking strength, and you are not lacking deep preparation. You are simply terrified of what happens when you actually succeed. I am tearing down that illusion tonight. You are listening to me right now, but your cautious mind is still fighting the words. You keep looking for the catch. You wonder if this is just a clever script designed to keep your attention for a few more minutes. I do not blame you for that heavy suspicion. Your caution is not a sudden failure of your faith, because it is a thick wall you built after too many empty promises left you entirely broken. You have given your fragile hope to situations that fell apart completely. Every time you trusted someone in the past, they walked away. Every time you stepped out of your safe zone, the ground beneath you crumbled immediately. So you learned to spot the danger before it could ever reach you. You became an absolute expert at predicting disappointment. You call it wisdom and realism. You tell yourself you are just being practical, but I see the terrible exhaustion hiding behind that practical mindset. It is incredibly exhausting to examine every single open door for hidden traps. A soul that expects betrayal in every corner never gets to rest. You are so tired of guarding your own heart. You hear my voice today and you immediately brace yourself for the inevitable letdown. You expect me to demand a massive leap of faith that you simply do not have the energy to make. Let me ease that specific burden for you right now. I am not asking you to leap, and I am not asking you to manufacture a blind trust that you do not actually feel. I only want you to look closely at your own hesitation. You have been staring at a choice for months. You know exactly which decision I am talking about. It is the path you keep researching and then completely abandoning. You tell your family that the timing is just not right yet, and you tell your friends that you are waiting for a much clearer sign from heaven. You have asked me for signs repeatedly, but the truth is much quieter than that. You sit at your kitchen table and make endless lists of pros and cons. You organize your workspace to avoid doing the actual work. Your house is always the cleanest on the exact days when you feel the most overwhelmed. You are not just cleaning the physical room, because you are desperately trying to control the only tiny space you can still reach. You tidy the desk because the future feels entirely out of your hands. That is not laziness, that is pure survival. I was there on the Tuesday afternoon when you almost took the step. Your hand hovered over the phone, your heart raced with a sudden burst of genuine courage. And then a familiar dark cloud rolled right back over your anxious mind. You remembered the last time you tried something bold and failed. You remembered the stinging embarrassment, so you pulled your hand back quickly. You told yourself it is better to be safe than to be publicly humiliated again. You chose the safe room, but the safe room has become a suffocating prison. You are completely miserable inside the very comfort zone you built to protect yourself. You watch other people move forward. You see them take risks and build the exact life you secretly dream about. And a quiet voice whispers that you are simply not brave enough to join them. That voice is a liar. You are not a coward. You have survived things that would have crushed other people. You carried your family through a crisis that almost broke you. You showed up for people who never once thanked you. A coward does not carry that kind of relentless weight. The reason you are paralyzed now is not because you lack courage. It is because your mind is terrified of adding one more failure to the heavy pile you already carry. Your brain is trying to save you from more pain, so it creates a thick fog of confusion to keep you frozen in place. Confusion feels so much safer than clarity. If you are confused, you do not have to act. If you are waiting for better timing, no one can judge you for standing still. I see the exact architecture of your hiding place, and I watched you build it brick by brick out of old disappointments. I am not angry that you built it. I would never punish a wounded child for trying to find a safe corner. But the season for hiding has officially expired. You have been living inside a waiting room of your own making. You tell yourself you are just gathering strength. You think you are waiting for the perfect season to finally step out. But seasons do not work like that. And the perfect season never arrives for a person who is secretly terrified of the weather. You keep checking the forecast. You keep adjusting your plans. And the years just keep slipping quietly through your fingers while you wait for a guarantee I never promised you. I see the heavy toll this waiting takes on your spirit. It is not a peaceful rest. It is an exhausting vigilance. You watch others walk out into the rain and build their lives. You feel a sharp sting of jealousy, and then you punish yourself for feeling jealous. A quiet voice in your chest keeps asking when your turn will finally come. Your turn is already here. It has been here. My steady one, you have spent years getting ready. You read the books. You made the careful plans. You bought the tools and set them neatly on your desk. You did everything right. But every time the calendar tells you it is time to start, a sudden wave of extreme exhaustion hits you. You feel completely drained before you even begin. Your limbs feel heavy. Your brain fogs over. Last night you lost 3 hours and you cannot tell me where they went. Your eyes stayed open easily for all of it. Then you sat down in front of the one thing that actually matters. You looked at the project you have been meaning to finish, and a heavy blanket came down over your tired eyes. Suddenly the desk needed clearing. Suddenly there were urgent messages to answer. You got up and walked away. You carried that particular shame to bed with you the way you have carried it 1,000 nights. You have a harsh word for yourself on nights exactly like that. You call yourself lazy. You call yourself undisciplined. You tell yourself there is something deeply wrong with you that other successful people simply do not have. You genuinely believe you lack the basic drive required to change your own life. My beloved child, that cruel word has never fit you. I want that word out of your mouth today. You have carried other people through terrible years that you barely survived yourself. A lazy soul does not do that. An undisciplined person does not hold a fragile family together. The word is completely wrong because the word is wrong. Everything you built on top of it is wrong too. Listen to me carefully now. Here is what is actually happening deep inside you right now. The mind does not resist work. The mind resists exposure. Look at the endless tasks you avoid and the daily tasks you never avoid. You will quickly find the avoided ones are not the hardest. They are the revealing ones. They are the exact ones where you would finally find out what you are truly made of. Your mind loves you and has been fiercely guarding you since you were small. So it builds a thick fog in front of that door and calls it tomorrow. It is a loyal bodyguard who has never been told the war is over. I am going to name this so you can never unsee it. This is the protective delay. It is not sabotage. It is a defense mechanism acting completely out of love. Now go back with me through all those painful, unfinished things. Look at the dusty drawer of half-written pages. Think about the big plan you described to your friend once and never mentioned again. You were not lazy in those quiet years. You were heavily guarded. Something in you decided long ago that being unfinished was much safer than being completely measured and judged by the world. You decided that because somewhere long ago you were measured badly by someone who had absolutely no right to hold the scale. You took their blind judgment and made it your own personal law. You have not been failing to begin. You have been protecting a deep wound that no one ever tended. I am tending to it tonight. The hiding must end because the danger is already gone. So today I do not want you to promise me the whole thing. Promise me 15 minutes. Promise me you will do it badly. Open the file. Take out the blank page. Touch the work with absolutely no intention of doing it perfectly. 15 minutes of poor work is the only thing the thick fog cannot survive. The fog exists to protect you from being fiercely judged. And there is absolutely nothing to judge in 15 deliberately imperfect minutes. Set the clock right now. Begin before you feel ready. Readiness has never once arrived first. It comes in behind the actual work and never before it. You are safe to begin. Comment. I release the delay if you are ready to put the tiredness down. Remember the protective delay I named for you. I want to show you the exact life standing on the other side of it. Come with me to an ordinary morning a single season from now. Nothing special has been announced on this day. You wake up long before the alarm rings and your feet find the cold floor without any argument. You walk into the kitchen. You hold a warm cup against your palm and you do not brace for impact. Notice exactly what is missing from that quiet room. The familiar tightening behind your ribs is simply not there. You do not run through your massive list of failures before the day has even opened its eyes. The heavy dread of having to prove your worth to the world has completely vanished. That is the part you cannot picture yet. You cannot imagine standing inside a silent room with nothing and you running away. But that person is not a distant fantasy. That peaceful version of you already exists. He is standing right on the other side of the heavy defense mechanism you are still holding. You know the exact shield I am talking about. It has never been yours to carry permanently. The distance between you and that beautiful morning is not time. It is permission. Permission is not a physical thing you wait to be handed by a boss or a parent. It is a firm statement you say out loud in an empty room. Say it tonight before you sleep. Say that you are finally setting the delay down. The morning I just showed you does not have to be chased. It only waits for you to stop hiding. You feel a gentle wave of relief hearing that promise. But almost immediately, a familiar tension creeps right back into your chest. You have arrived at this hopeful and bright place before, and you never told anyone what happened next. The important work was almost finished. The heavy door was finally opening. The long-awaited opportunity was right in your hands, and then you ruined it. Incredibly close to the very end, something inside you reached out and knocked the cup completely over. You went totally quiet for a whole week and let the rare opportunity die. You picked a small fight over something that did not matter at all. You found a minor flaw and used it as an excuse to burn the whole bridge down. Afterward, you sat alone in the car in the absolute dark. You had absolutely no words for a person who runs from the exact thing they have been begging me to provide. You believe you are just terrified of failing again. You have said it so often that the excuse has worn a deep groove into your tired soul. You constantly tell yourself that you are just afraid it will not work out. Look honestly at the clear evidence. Look at your own history. You have survived massive things not working out. You survived absolute ruin more than once. You are not actually afraid of the walls collapsing. You have proven you can live through a devastating collapse. You are deeply afraid of what happens when the walls finally stand firm. You are terrified of what happens when you actually succeed. Success means you will have to step into a completely new room. You are terrified that you will not be allowed to bring your loved ones with you. This intense fear does not come from cowardice. It comes from a misplaced sense of extreme loyalty. You have been walking around with a heavy ceiling over your head, and you built it out of pure devotion to the people who raised you. We will tear it down. I saw you build that ceiling to protect them. You decided long ago that shining too bright would make the people around you feel incredibly small. So you dimmed your own light on purpose. You traded your true potential for their temporary comfort, and you have been paying the heavy price for that quiet trade ever since. But that arrangement is coming to an end. I watched you walk up to the finish line of a massive breakthrough. You were holding the exact answer you had prayed for, and the heavy door was finally swinging open. Right before you crossed over, you dropped the keys. You found a tiny flaw in the careful plan. You picked a senseless fight with the only person trying to help you. You went completely silent and let the rare opportunity bleed out. You watched it die on the floor, and then you blamed the harsh world for being unfair. You sat in your car for an hour after it happened. You stared at the steering wheel and wondered why you always ruin the good things. But the world did not take it from you. You let it go. You have a very specific story you tell yourself when this happens. You say you are just deeply afraid of failing again. You tell your friends that the timing was not perfectly aligned. You convince your own heart that you lack the discipline to maintain a successful life. Listen to my voice right now. You are not afraid of failure. You have failed a dozen times and survived every single one of them. You know exactly how to navigate total ruin, because you are an absolute expert at rebuilding from zero. You are not terrified of falling down, you are terrified of standing up. Let me show you exactly where that strange terror was born. In the house where you grew up, someone you loved deeply did not rise. Someone set their music down and never picked it up again. Your fragile family learned to speak of that quiet tragedy in a lowered voice. A child watching that heavy sorrow learns a silent law. The unwritten law says you are not permitted to go higher than the people who raised you. To succeed would be to secretly accuse them of their own quiet failure. To rise would be to leave them completely behind. So, you built a heavy roof over your own head out of pure love. You spent 30 years calling it fear. I am going to name this heavy roof so you can never unsee it again. This is the loyalty ceiling. It is not cowardice. It is devotion aimed in the absolute wrong direction, because you thought you were honoring them by refusing to outshine their memory. But keeping yourself in the dark does not bring light to anyone else. It only doubles the heavy darkness in the room. Now look back at all the beautiful things you have broken. Look at the ancient ruins you have been deeply ashamed of. You did not break those precious things out of weakness or stupidity. You were fiercely protecting somebody. Every single time you stopped just short of the finish line, you were speaking in a language older than words. You were promising that you would not outgrow the people who gave you life. That is not a character defect. That is a fiercely loyal heart that was never told the entire truth. And here is the plain truth you need to hear today. Your staying small has never once made them larger. The heavy ceiling has cost you everything and given them absolutely nothing. Your success is not a betrayal of their daily struggle, and your joy is not an insult to their long sadness. I am lifting this heavy requirement off your tired shoulders tonight. You do not have to carry their unlived lives anymore. So I want you to do one small thing today. Say the name of the person you have been staying small for. Say it quietly, only to me, in the dark. Then say this directly to them in your spirit. I release the heavy debt. My rising takes absolutely nothing from you, and my light is not withdrawn from your room. And then go back to the exact work you abandoned and take one honest step above the ceiling. Not the whole staircase, one single step. A ceiling that is crossed even once loses all of its ancient authority. You are no longer bound by the invisible rules of a house you do not live in anymore. That was not failure. It was never yours. You may finally set it down. You have spent too many years apologizing for the length of a season you did not design. You could not shorten it. That heavy apology is officially finished now, and I am the one finishing it. The door is open. Do not walk away from the exact thing you have been asking me for. Type my season is not late if you believe I heard every prayer you thought I ignored. I know what rose in you when I began to speak today. You were thinking that you have heard this exact promise before. You have knelt on this hard floor before. You made the careful promise and you kept it for 11 long days. And you broke it completely on the 12th day, and the year ended exactly where it began. You are telling me the absolute truth right now. I will not argue with your own painful history. You lived every single hour of it, and I was there for every hour of it with you. But hear the clear difference now. What you tried in the past was simply behavior. You desperately reached for the closest branch. You woke up earlier than everyone else. You prayed much longer than you ever did before. You forgave a person who never even asked to be forgiven. You built the strict discipline, and you carried it until your strength gave out, and human strength always gives out eventually. It was never meant to hold a thing this heavy for this long. You did not fail, my child. You worked faithfully for years on the entirely wrong layer. Sit down with me a while. Let me show you the hidden stone you have been carrying. It comes with a different name. It happens in a different city. It starts with a different, beautiful beginning that felt absolutely wonderful. That is the part that confuses you most today. And then some months in, you recognized the heavy weather. You felt the same familiar silence at the dinner table. You started managing your own sentences before you said them out loud. You felt the same awful feeling of standing in a house where you must read a face at the door. You have to read their shifting mood before you know what kind of evening it will be. And you ask me the painful question you have asked 100 times before. You beg me to tell you why this keeps finding you. You decided you are just a terrible judge of people. You decided there must be something written on you that only the wrong ones can read. Beloved, none of that is true, and I will not let it stand today. You are not a poor judge. You judge perfectly well in every other room of your life, and nothing about your soul is permanently marked. Here is what is really at work deep inside you. A wound that was never healed does not sit still and wait patiently. It goes looking for a room where the story can finally end differently. So it walks you toward whatever feels incredibly familiar. It does not do this because familiar is good. It does this because familiar is where the wound learned to live. And this is the exact part that has fooled you every single time. Recognition feels like home, even when home was never truly safe. That sudden flood in your chest when you met them was not certainty. That was your history recognizing its own messy handwriting. I am naming it now, so you can finally see it clearly. This is the familiar door. It stands open in every season of your life, and it always looks exactly like the way back. Look again at the choices you have been deeply ashamed of. You were not foolish. You were trying to finish something broken. Every one of those doors, you walked through hoping that this time the tragic ending would be repaired. You hoped that this time the cold person would finally turn warm. You prayed that this time you would be enough to change it all. That is not weakness, my child. That is a brave heart still trying to save a child nobody came for. I saw what you were reaching for in the dark. It was never that person. It was the beautiful ending you never got. So carry one single question to the next doorway. When your chest floods and says this is the one, you must stop immediately. Ask yourself if this is recognition or if this is rightness. They do not feel the same when you slow down enough to tell them apart. Recognition arrives fast and loud, and it always feels like massive relief. Rightness arrives quietly. Rightness feels like room to breathe. You do not have to decide anything today. You only have to learn the difference between the two. Learn it, and the heavy door loses its terrible power over you. It loses power because you finally see that it is a door and not a home. I have watched this happen 10,000 times. It is always the exact same predictable sequence. First comes the painful striving, then comes the terrible exhaustion, and only after the deep exhaustion comes the actual opening. You have completed the first two stages completely. You have been standing at the third one for a long time. It is time for you to finally move forward. Let them keep their old opinion of who you were. Let them keep the tired version of the story where you constantly failed. Let them keep the long years they spent explaining your life to one another. You were never asked to carry their false account of your life. You are only required to carry your own. You must put their heavy stories down forever. Every time you got up anyway, I saw it clearly. Every time you spoke gently to someone who had not earned it, I witnessed it. Every time you kept a quiet promise no one was checking on, I recorded it. None of your quiet faithfulness ever went unwitnessed by me. Not one single hour of it was forgotten. I have been gathering all of it carefully. You are looking at your empty hands and wondering when the reward will come. You keep asking why the door did not swing open after you finally did the right thing. The answer is not that you missed your narrow window. The answer is not that your faith was too weak. The beautiful answer is quietly building for you right now. It is building deep underneath the floorboards. Nothing in this world grows in every direction at once. What is not rising is deepening, and invisible roots have never been a delay. I am building a root system that will survive the hardest winter. Two people on the same road at different points does not make one of them completely behind. It only makes them two different people walking forward. You are not falling behind your own schedule. Your appointed season is not arriving late either. The noisy world is very good at making you feel like time is running out. The noise of this world is loud enough to sound exactly like my absence. But it has never once been my absence. You simply could not hear my voice over the loud panic of your rushing mind. Stop measuring your progress against the people who do not carry your specific calling. They are moving faster because their cargo is incredibly light. You are moving slowly because what you carry requires immense care. I gave that special responsibility directly to you, and I gave you the exact amount of time needed to finish it. Picture the room where the heavy thing you have been carrying is finally set down. It is not thrown down in sudden anger. You set it down deliberately, the way you handle something important. Picture who is standing in that bright room with you. This is the part you have never let yourself picture. It is not a massive cheering crowd. It is 2 or 3 people who stayed. One of them is someone you have not met yet. All of them are looking at you the way you look at other people. They really see you for who you are. They value your presence in their quiet lives. They do not demand anything exhausting from you. That beautiful room is not an impossible dream. That version of you already exists today. There is one more thing about that room that I have not told you. I have been holding it back on purpose because it would have meant nothing to you earlier. It actually has a very specific secret name. I will call it the last thing I kept. You will not receive it in the part of this that sounds like an ending. You will receive it shortly after that moment. Before we finish, understand that the most important sentence of this entire hour has not been spoken yet. It will not be spoken exactly where you expect it. It only comes right after the final blessing. Do not go anywhere when it sounds like I am closing. That space is precisely where the answer lives. Everything I have said until now was preparation. This moment right here is the thing itself. You must lift your tired head, my child. What comes next is not just basic information. It is a defining moment for your spirit. I have been walking you toward one single sentence this entire time, and we have finally arrived at it. Now I will speak directly over your life. There is a prayer you have stopped praying out loud. You still say the quiet words at night, but you took your heavy weight off them somewhere along the way. You send them up like a tired man greeting a stranger he expects absolutely nothing from. You ask me for a clear sign. You beg for a wide open door, but when the handle actually turns, you freeze in total panic. You step back instead of stepping forward. You have drawn a tragic conclusion from my long silence. You concluded that I simply said no. On the hardest nights, you concluded something far worse than no. You decided I was not listening at all. You thought your desperate words went up into a completely empty ceiling. I want to answer that specific doubt directly right now. I have heard every single one of them. Not one of those lonely nights was unwitnessed. Silence and absolute refusal are not the exact same thing. The human heart cannot easily tell them apart. It fills the quiet space with the worst word it knows. But listen to what actually happens in a waiting season. Between the asking and the arriving, there is deep work being done. The work is on the vessel, and not on the water. A massive gift that comes before the hands are ready is not a mercy. It is a terrible loss with a beautiful wrapping. I have watched it break the very people who begged for it, so some of what you have asked for is being made ready. And some of it I love you far too much to hand you in the exact shape you asked for it. You call your hesitation a lack of readiness. I call it a protective delay. I am stepping in now because waiting longer will cost you your entire destiny. Now look back over the long years you have called abandoned. You were not being ignored in those silent rooms. You were being carefully formed. Ask yourself honestly what you can carry now that you could not have carried before the waiting began. None of that solid strength came from the instantly answered prayers. All of it came from the long silence you thought was cold rejection. The wait was never empty. You simply could not see me working. I was working on the one thing you never thought to look at. Every time you got up anyway, I saw it clearly. Every time you kept a quiet promise no one was checking on, I saw it. Every time you spoke gently to someone who had not earned it, I recorded it. None of it went unwitnessed by me. Not one single hour of your long obedience was ever wasted. I counted all of them. Hear me exactly where you make your decisions. You were never left behind. You were never the one who entirely missed it. The thing you have been calling your delay has a true name. The name is preparation. Preparation is not a cruel punishment handed down to the unworthy. It is what I do to the ones I intend to build something massive with. So the old argument ends today, not softens. It ends completely. You are not late. You are not less. You are not the tragic exception to my faithfulness. The door is standing open. I am not asking you to force yourself back into that old desperate prayer tonight. I ask you to change one word. Where you have been saying, "Why have you not?" say instead, "What are you doing?" Lift your head. Say it with me. I am not late. Now step through the door. You have spent years apologizing for the length of a season you did not design. You could not shorten it with your anxiety. That heavy apology is officially finished now. I am the one finishing it. Do not walk away from the exact thing you have been asking me for. Type "I release the delay" if you are ready to put the tiredness down forever. The answer is already waiting in the room. Accept it today. This is the moment your entire life has been building toward. You do not need to understand every single step of the path ahead. You only need to take the very first one. I am holding the rest of the map securely in my hands. Trust the quiet voice that tells you it is finally safe to move. The waiting served its purpose. The preparation is fully complete. Now you must walk into the bright light. You know the absolute truth now. The old heavy story is permanently broken. You do not have to carry their false account of your life for one more day. The open door is standing right there in front of you. You must walk through it without asking anyone for permission. You already have my clear permission. The season of hiding is over. Every single moment you have stayed here tonight has been tearing down that invisible ceiling. That is not your active imagination working. That is exactly what happens when you finally stop running away. The terrible tightness in your chest is loosening right now as you listen to my steady voice. Allow it to leave your body completely. Do not pull the heavy anxiety back in. What comes next is going to sound like the very end. The voice will slow down significantly. The words will get much shorter. That is not the end of this message. That is the quiet doorway to the final instruction. The last thing I kept is still safely in my hands. It is handed over on the other side of this moment. Stay exactly where you are. Now that you have received the profound truth, I must tell you what will try to steal it back. The noise of this world does not fight you with a massive sword. It fights you with a very familiar habit. Tomorrow morning you will wake up and your brain will automatically reach for the old heavy anxiety. It will feel incredibly comfortable to pick it up again. I will not send you out of this room without warning you about that dangerous road. Hear this clearly before you go. There is a terrible cost to spending another year living inside that old miserable arrangement. It is not a cost anyone will ever send you an invoice for. It is paid quietly in the beautiful things you completely stop expecting. You slowly lose your bright hope. You simply shrink yourself down to fit a tiny room you have already outgrown. I am not warning you about a physical enemy tonight. I am warning you about your own deep habit of retreating from the light. If you walk away from this sudden clarity now, you will carry the same old weight into another long decade. I absolutely refuse to let you do that. You will spend the next 12 months asking me for the exact freedom that was sitting right here. On the day you need this specific courage the most, you will reach for it and find nothing. You will only find the broken part you were willing to sit through. Do not let that tragic outcome happen. I am standing firmly between you and that painful reality. I am the only one who can stop this bitter cycle from repeating. That is the primary reason I demand your attention tonight. Stay with me. Leaving does not pause this powerful restoration. Leaving ends it completely. The ones who leave at this exact point are the ones who ask me later why nothing ever changed. Do not be the one who leaves. I am not asking you for anything impossible today. I am simply telling you that the beautiful sentence I promised you is still owed to you. I do not leave a debt like that unpaid. It comes right after the quiet part. Breathe deeply right now. Let the deep truth settle into your bones before we take the final step. I am walking with you. Look at the person who still checks on everyone else. Look at the one who still cannot walk past someone crying in a parking lot. That beautiful compassion was not left in the dark ashes. You survived the fire and you kept your soft heart. I want to talk with you about what happens next. Do not set your phone down. Listen to the very end. The heavy teaching is officially finished today. What remains right now is only between the two of us. Put your notebook down and just listen to me. I am going to lower my voice for this last part, because this final moment is not a loud lesson or a strict instruction. It is a quiet blessing meant for your tired soul. You have heard me. Now let me hold you before you finally go. You walked through a massive storm to get to this exact room. I know how much it cost you to keep your soft heart open. The noisy world tried its absolute best to make you bitter, and you watched people walk away when you needed them most. You felt the sharp sting of betrayal from hands you deeply trusted, but you refused to let the darkness change your fundamental nature. You stayed incredibly kind. That beautiful kindness is exactly why I chose you for this specific assignment. You thought your gentle nature was a terrible weakness that held you back. I am telling you, it is the strongest weapon you possess. The people who hurt you were simply incapable of holding the vast light you carry. They left because they could not survive in a room that was still being built. The room is finally finished now. I promised you one last thing before we close the heavy door. I told you there was a single sentence that would change your entire trajectory. I kept it back until your heart was ready to actually hold it. You are completely ready now, because your hands have finally dropped the heavy bags you were never supposed to carry. Your mind is quiet enough to hear the absolute truth. Listen closely to my words. Hear the profound sentence you have waited your whole life to hear. You are entirely enough, exactly as you are today. You do not need to prove your worth to me or to anyone else ever again. That is the ultimate truth. You do not have to earn your place at my table through endless sacrifice, because your seat was reserved for you before you took your very first breath. The exhausting audition is permanently over. You came into this room carrying something you had stopped noticing long ago. You are not walking out with it today. What you walk out with instead is much smaller and infinitely better. It is the solid knowledge that your painful waiting had my careful hands on it. You will no longer stand frozen in front of wide open doors, but you will step through them with pure confidence. Your long hesitation is broken. Somebody in your family line will live completely differently because of what you refused to pass down today. The heavy cycle of delay and fear officially stops with you. You broke the ancient loyalty ceiling with your bare hands. You are the steady one who finally changed the generational story for everyone who comes next. They will never know the thick fog of confusion you had to fight through. I have said everything I came to say to you today. What happens next is not mine to do. You must take the final step yourself. Put your hand on these powerful words and make them your own. Do this in your own writing and under your own real name, not because it magically seals anything in heaven. Do it because you will read it back one day and recognize your own strong voice in it. See your own bold declaration. Type "I say yes with my life right now." Let this place know you stayed to the very end of the long journey. I read what my children write in the quiet hours. When you write it where others can read it, you stop being someone who merely heard a message, and you become someone who confidently spoke a truth. Leave your mark before you leave this room. I am waiting to see your name on the page. Now go, not in a frantic hurry. Walk out of here the way a free person walks when they have finally stopped auditioning for a place they already belong to. Do not look back at the heavy things you dropped on the floor today. Leave them exactly where they fell. I am with you. I have always been with you. Go.